This is a run through and scenario of exactly how the price leakage identification is done through the ARC software that I am pitching. And it essentially goes through how this auto audit system works in the scenario of the price leakage, which is a type of pilferage and leakage that occurs in the current audit system. So currently what happens in the system is that there are essentially three players: a supplier, a purchaser within the company, and a large or medium-sized company. Now, what happens in the scenario is essentially the purchaser from within the company says he wants to buy one nail, supplier gives him a regular market price, which is $100. Now, what the purchaser does, or the supplier, they essentially come up with a deal between themselves, and they say, let's price it $10 above the market price. Now, the supplier is thinking, ooh, what's going to happen here? So then they essentially do what we call in the business a kickback. So essentially, by providing the goods at above market price, they essentially increase the selling price, and there is a $10 amount that is excess. So market price is 100, here the selling price is 110. So this excess of $10 goes is split between the supplier and the purchaser. In this case, an example shows how the purchaser takes $8 and supplier takes $2. That is what we call a general kickback. Obviously, the selling price and quantity of and the amount, etc., varies from purchase to purchase. So this can be very excessive. Now, what happens is that the boss is basically shocked at the end of the year when he realizes he's lost 20% of his profits and purchases, or the equivalent of 20% of his profits and purchases. Now, this essentially sometimes comes out at the audit at the end of the year. And he says, why haven't I been told about this? He takes people to task at the end of the year when he's already lost a very, very large amount of money. So this is essentially the problem. This is one of the scenarios, and this is where ARC comes in. Now let's go through the scenario again. Now what ARC does is I'm going to run you through exactly how our model will work. So the boss has only one power, and his power is essentially the ability to sign a check. Now he will say, before you buy anything, you have to send an ARC text validating the quantity and price. I'll show you how that works. And this is essentially a system that the boss can set up. Obviously, people will try and find ways around the system, but I'll show you why that even won't work. So now he'll basically say, you have to send this text out, and this is essentially what you have to do. This is our system in place. Now the purchaser does this whole thing again. The 100, 110, we're doing the one nail, and we're doing it where he does the kickback. So what happens is the purchaser sends an ARC link via a text, and the supplier opens link and validates the item, the quantity, and the price. Now this is then going to go straight onto a blockchain. Now no one's yet done a blockchain over text before, because everyone just assumed that there were enough computers where blockchain was going to be used. But so this is actually a new innovation. It's very simple to do, but no one's just done it yet. So that's how we record our smart contract. So once this smart contract is recorded, essentially this is what the blockchain will look like. So it gives you item, quantity, and price on the blockchain. Now the key is it cannot be tampered with, it cannot be deleted, and this is essentially how it will stay. Previously the books used to be fudged, they used to get away with it even at the audit, and this is essentially done immediately. Now what ARC does is, besides just putting it on a blockchain, we do an ERP in this price leakage case. In an ERP, we essentially do what current auditors do. We will have a team of auditors that will essentially do what is called a discrete market price check. So they basically call up hundreds of suppliers of nails and work out an average market price. Now, once we find out what the average market price is, which is $100 in this case, we make our ERP, which is essentially an Excel sheet that you can put on Tally, you can put on any different software, but in this case, to make it simple, let's say it's an Excel sheet. And this is what our ERP tells us: item, quantity, and price. As simple as that. So this is what we do in the auditing section. Now, what we create is a linkage between the blockchain list and the list, which is the Excel sheet or the tally sheet of the ERP. We use a rudimentary AI, and what we would essentially do is create a link list, is what you would call it, and we would link these two lists, and this is what would happen. So once these two are linked, it'll essentially say market price per piece for the quantity, which is 1, and the sale price, which is 110 in the blockchain, does not equal the market price. And essentially that would signal ARC to essentially push out what would be a report that looks like this. So if we look at nails at the bottom here, we would see that there is a discrepancy, and this is 10 per piece. So per piece sold. Now we have to do it in this format because that's how Tally works, and that's how it works in most audit softwares. So just for ease of use. So this essentially immediately, it could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, whenever you want to run it, it can essentially tell you when there is a price discrepancy. And you would essentially get a Word document at the end of the day telling you this is the discrepancy and this is the item where the discrepancy occurs. So now the boss gets a report, and then he's happy because he now knows that this is where my leakage is occurring. He knows who to take to task. He knows how much the leakage is, and he knows that that's where he needs to plug the holes. But he knows this daily, weekly, or monthly, and whenever he wants to know, rather than at the end of the year in the audit. And sometimes even the end of the year doesn't come out because of the sheer amount of books that people have to go through, the amount of fudging of stuff, the amount of changing prices, quantity, etc., etc. So he actually knows more accurately and more quickly, which is the most crucial thing, where he has lost his money. Then he takes people to task, and that's what he would do anyways at the end of the year. Sometimes I've done it myself personally in our own business, but instead he can do it immediately. And this is crucial because that's how he plugs the holes. That's how he saves his money. Now, obviously, there's, as I mentioned, there's 3 total types of leakages in quantity, purchase orders, and price. And within these 3, there's 30 subsets total. And ARC can, in different ways, tackle all of these. But this is essentially the prototype software, and this is one of the biggest leakages that currently occurs. So this prototype software will, once this is done, it is very easy to branch out into the 3 bigger ones and the 30 subsets, because this is probably the most complicated one. So that's essentially a run through of a full scenario with ARC. Thank you.